Welcome students sa ating pong lesson ngayon pong hapon. We will be talking about the concept of heat and heat transfer. So let us start. In our discussion this afternoon, there are several learning outcomes. One, at the end of the session, the student should be able to define heat. So after this discussion, you should be able to know how to define heat. You need also to be able to know how to define heat transfer. And number three, differentiate the modes of heat transfer. I have here four pictures. If you are familiar with the game, four pick one word, yun ang konsepto ng game natin na ito. So try to look at the four pictures on your screen and sabihin nyo sa akin kung ano ang common sa mga pictures nito. I'll give you 15 seconds. Okay? So what is common to these four pictures on the screen? The answer is heat. Okay? In the first picture, you can see in here a solar panel. Of course, solar panel is used to convert the heat that comes from the sun to electric power or electric current. And then you can also see on the second picture of someone who is cooking. Of course, in cooking, it involves heat. And in the third picture, you will also see in there what is actually happening inside a cylinder on our diesel engine. Of course, this is a combustion process and heat is involved. And in the fourth picture, you will see in here the heat cycle. The heat cycle is the one responsible for our climate or the change of our climate. So let us try to define what is heat. Heat is the energy transferred from one body to another as the result of a difference in temperature. So if we have two objects that differs in temperature, the tendency would be there will be heat transfer. So heat is also called as energy in transit because heat is transferred from one body to another. It exits from one body and it is absorbed by another body. Thereby, it is called energy in transit. If two bodies at different temperatures are brought together, heat or thermal energy is transferred. So how does heat differ with temperature? Paano nagkakaiba ang heat sa tinatawag na temperature? The difference is that heat can be transferred, but temperature cannot be transferred. Temperature is the hotness or coldness of a body which can be affected due to the transfer of heat. Ibig sabihin yan, ang temperature hindi yan natatransfer. Heat is transferred. If you try to look at this illustration on the screen, you can see in here a cup of coffee lying on top of a table. Of course, this is a hot coffee, so you will observe that there are vapor that comes out from the coffee. Kung iiwanan mo itong hot coffee na ito on top of the table, let's say for 1 hour, you will observe na after 1 hour, hindi na siya kasing init gaya kanina, 1 hour ago. Why? Yung kape, some of its heat is already transferred from the coffee to its environment. So the transfer of heat is from the coffee going to its environment. Why? Kasi mas mainit yung kape kaysa sa kanyang environment. So there was a transfer of heat from that hot object to the atmosphere, which is a colder space. So, in those concepts, what can we deduce about heat transfer? When we say heat transfer, it is the movement of heat from a body of higher temperature to a body of lower temperature. So this is always the flow of heat. Okay? The flow of heat is always from a body of higher temperature to a body of lower temperature. If you try to look at this illustration on this slide, we have here two objects. We have object 1, which has a high temperature, and object 2, which has lower temperature. In this illustration, you will observe that the heat is transferred from the first object to the second object, or the heat is being transferred from the object of higher temperature to an object of lower temperature. Okay? So let us also try to study the modes of heat transfer. There are three modes of heat transfer. We have conduction, convection, and radiation. So let us try to study and differentiate these three modes of heat transfer. First, let us try to discuss conduction. Conduction is heat transfer through direct contact. So if we say conduction, there is a direct contact between two objects. Conduction takes place, according to this slide, conduction takes place due to a temperature difference in a body or between bodies in contact without mixing of mass. So, if there are two bodies of different temperature or different amount of heat, okay, heat and temperature are related, but they are not the same. Okay, the higher the temperature of an object, it means that it has more energy in it. Okay, so temperature is being affected by the amount of heat. However, heat is transferred. That could also affect that object that absorbs the heat. Okay, so when heat is transferred, that object who transferred heat, its temperature will be lowered because of the transfer of heat. And the object that absorbs the heat, its temperature will increase because of the addition of its heat content. Okay? So if we have two objects, an object of high temperature and an object of lower temperature, if they are in contact with each other, even though there is no mixing of mass, they just have contact with each other, then heat is being transferred. That process is called conduction. In this slide, you will see an example of conduction. Okay? For example, you are cooking using a pan, and the handle of the pan is also metallic. You will observe that heat is being transferred from the fire to the pan, or the fire source, or the source of flame to the pan. And if you try to hold that handle, that metallic handle, you will observe that heat will be transferred from that handle to your hands. There is a direct contact between the pan and your hand. Thereby, it is called conduction. I have another illustration here of two young ladies who are who wants to eat marshmallow. Nag-iihaw sila ng marshmallow. One of the ladies uses wooden stick, and the other one, this one uses a wooden stick, and the other one uses a metal rod. If you try to use the metal rod to roast marshmallow, hindi lang yung marshmallow ang mag-iinit. Of course, it's also the metal rod because metal is a conductor. Kaya nga tinawag na conductor of heat ang metal because they easily conduct heat. Okay? And the process when it conducts heat is called conduction. Okay? So, etong lady na ito, nabitawan niya yung kanyang metal rod because it was heated by the fire. Yung isa, hindi niya nabitawan yung kanyang stick sapagkat meron siyang wooden stick, and wood do not conduct heat. Okay? So the process of transferring heat from direct contact is what we call conduction. The second mode of heat transfer is what we call convection. Convection is a process where heat is transferred by a moving fluid. So in convection, there is a flow of currents in a liquid or gas. Ano itong flow of current na tinatawag? I have here an illustration, an example, which is boiling of water. Okay? If you try to boil water from using a pan, you will observe that when you put the pan with water on top of a flame, the flame would hit the pan, and what will be heated first are the water molecule which are below the pan, or the water molecules that are directly in contact with the bottom of the pan. So the waters or the water molecules in this area would be heated first. Since hot liquid or even hot fluids, when we say fluids, these are liquids or gases. Hot fluids would tend to go up, and colder fluids would tend to sink. Okay? So, when we are heating this fluid or this liquid, those molecules or water molecules at the bottom of the pan would rise up, and it will be altered by fluids or colder fluids going down. So this is a repeating cycle. Okay? So you will observe later on that it's not only the bottom, the liquid at the bottom of the pan will be heated, but also the liquid on the surface. This is due to the current, the cycle that happens in the liquid. And this process of rising of hot fluids and the sinking of colder fluids is called convection. So heat is being transferred because of this flow of current. The third mode of heat transfer is what we call radiation. Kung doon sa conduction, there is a direct contact between two objects without mixing of mass in order for heat to be transferred. In convection, fluid is involved. If there is a flow of current because of the heat that is being added to the fluid, then heat transfer occurs. In radiation, heat transfer is done through space by electromagnetic waves. Okay? A very good example of electromagnetic wave is light. So, in radiation, heat is being transferred as electromagnetic wave. This is an illustration of how radiation happens. So, in this illustration, you have here a lady who wants to tan her skin. Okay? So siya ay nagbibilad sa ilalim ng araw. Now the heat that comes from the sun travels from the source, and that's the sun, through a vacuum. You know that the outer space is a vacuum. However, electromagnetic waves in the form of light can travel through vacuum, and when it reaches us or reaches this lady, she will be able to feel the heat. This transfer, where there is no contact between two objects and fluid is not involved, transfer where it could happen even in a vacuum, is called radiation. Okay? So let us try to check whether we learned these three modes of heat transfer. I have here three pictures. Now, answer which of these pictures shows conduction, convection, and radiation. So, which of this picture shows conduction? Picture A says, "Hey Duke, doesn't that fire feel good?" Picture B says, "Ouch, the poker's too hot to hold with my bare hands." Picture C says, "I'll turn on the fan. All the warmest air is up near the ceiling." So which of this picture or which of this picture is conduction? Okay, very good. It's letter B. Conduction, because that boy is holding on that hot object. There is a direct contact between two objects. Okay. Now, which of these pictures is convection? Very good. Convection is letter C, because there is a flow of air inside the room. Now, which of this picture is radiation? It's letter A. The heat is being radiated from the source to that boy or to that person. Okay? Now, this is also another example of heat transfer. If you're an Indian cooking, two-person, and I think I saw this one in a movie. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much for watching. That's just a simple discussion about heat and the modes of heat transfer. Remember that there are three modes of heat transfer, and they are conduction, convection, and radiation. When you say conduction, there is a contact between two objects, direct contact between two objects. When you say convection, there is a flow of current, usually in fluids, in order for the heat to be transferred. And when you say radiation, uh, energy can travel through space in the form of electromagnetic waves. Okay, so I hope you were able to follow that. And heat also is defined as the transfer of energy from a body of higher temperature to a body of lower temperature. It is also called as heat in transit. Okay, so thank you very much and have a great day.